big opportunity for a lot of brands, and it's a big focus for your agency right now as well. Before we really jump in, just kind of tell me a little bit more about yourself and your agency, and what's making TikTok Shops such a focus for you right now.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, by the way, Colby. Yeah, so I've been in this industry for a long time. I've been in e-commerce, well, a long time for e-commerce. So I've been around since 2014. Started drop shipping hoverboards when that was a thing. So that's how I got started. My wife and I built up a baby clothing company. From there, we did acquisitions. At one point, we owned 6 brands. Through that, I built an agency on the side. And so for me, it was always kind of this side thing that I was just sort of like, oh, it's good to have the agency. I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed helping brands. Over the last year, since we exited one of our bigger brands, one of our other brands went under. I've had a lot of time to spend on the agency. And the really cool thing is that, as you get into agency land, I started to realize where there was a massive need. And the massive need that I saw was in TikTok Shop specifically. So TikTok Shop first, but really at the end of the day, it's social commerce, right? So I really believe in social commerce. I really believe that all commerce is social, right? When's the last time that you've made a purchase somewhere without asking someone or going and looking at a review, right? Like
Yeah.
we all do it. We all want to know, like, is the tribe going to accept us if we make this purchase, right? It's what we do as humans. And so TikTok Shop is an incredible confluence of all of that together, right? It's like this weird word of mouth, affiliate, Amazon, Shopify, all kind of had a baby together. And that's why I was like, oh, this is already massive in Asia. I think that we're looking at something that's going to be huge in North America, and people are really going to need help. And so that's where it came from on the agency side.
And I saw a recent webinar that you did, or a webinar that you did for TikTok Shops, which we will likely link in the show notes for anybody listening. And I heard in that you compared TikTok Shops to the early days of Amazon. Could you maybe elaborate on that a little bit and just kind of share with me what you think that comparison is?
For me, it's just a blue ocean comparison, right? It's this time where there's good things and bad things about it, right? I would say the bad things are that there's a lot of overseas manufacturers who are spinning up brands and products to try to sell on TikTok Shop. So there's a lot of garbage on TikTok Shop. There's a lot of big brands who also are scared to come over to TikTok Shop, right? Which is also, sort of one of those incredible opportunities for agencies like us, where we really try to be the adult in the room, right? Where there's a lot of, and then there's this time where there's these younger kids who come up who know TikTok but don't know how to run a business, don't know how to deliver a service, right? And so there's that whole level there. And so it's an incredible time to number one, get onto the platform, right? If you're a brand, like, this is the time to get onto the platform, learn the platform. YouTube Shopping, announced their integration with Shopify recently. I have good friends over there at the, who are handling that integration, who are, the heads of YouTube Shopping, which is going to be massive, right? It's going to be the TikTok Shop of YouTube. So we've got that whole thing going on there. And then we also have Meta coming in, and a friend of mine reports to the C-suite there, and they were supposed to release their affiliate network in Q3. And so we're in Q4 now recording this, but like, it is going to be a matter of time where it's only a matter of time until all of this becomes reality, and social commerce is just the normal.
Yeah. And it's still so early on with TikTok Shops. I imagine as an agency, when you're bringing on a client, more often than not, it's starting from the ground up versus, you pick up a Facebook ad account now and you're looking at data that they've had for the past couple of years and optimizing things that way. As a brand is going in, or agency brand is going in to get started with TikTok Shops, where do you generally look at? Let's get into the nitty gritty on the actual actionable insights here. What's some of the setup steps that are most important early on?
Yeah, number one, are you going to be successful on TikTok Shop, right? So first, looking and seeing, is there an adjacent brand or in our category, are we going to be successful? Now, that's not always the case, but for most brands, I'm going to say that should be the case unless you are an enterprise level brand, right? So we work with a lot of enterprise level brands just because they come to us because we understand what we're doing with the adults in the room. I've got a lot of people that are, my head of TikTok Shop was at Procter & Gamble before as an executive, right? Like that, those sort of level of people that there's a lot of trust out there. But for brands that are listening to this, make sure that your category is actually selling on TikTok Shop, number one, right? Make sure that your AOV is selling on TikTok Shop within your category. Now, Can you sell high AOV products? Absolutely, you can. Just make sure that people are already doing it in your category and that you're not the first. Now, we've got a very well-known footwear brand that we're working with. We actually, I posted this recently on Twitter, where we did 110K in a single day a couple of days ago. Nothing special. We just hit some really good affiliates, had some really good days with ads, and hit some big numbers. Now, footwear we were not planning on being able to do this much, but because they're a well-known brand and we were able to hit things just perfectly, we're the category leaders now, right? So are you going to be a category leader if you're a $5 million brand? Probably not, right? This is a $1 billion brand. They already have a lot of brand equity and they've got a lot of money that they can play with to become the category leader on TikTok Shop. But for brands that are out there, go and look at Calidata. That's a big one. Fastmoss is another one. These are all places that you're going to be able to get a lot of information and statistics about what's going on and what's actually selling on TikTok Shop. So that's the first place to start, right? It's like, should I even go on? Usually my answer is going to be yes, that you should go on in some sort of way. The next step after that is actually setting your shop up, right? The setup can be difficult. I would say that that's an entire phase in its own, right? So we think about this in like a three-phased approach. So setup is this entire thing of trying to actually just get up and running on TikTok Shop. I would say it's generally between a week and 2 weeks if you don't run into roadblocks. Once you're set up, then it's phase two, right? And in phase two, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get as much GMV onto your store as possible. And sorry, not just onto your store, right? This is where it becomes a lot more similar to Amazon, where you're trying to get it on a specific SKU. The reason why is because when you're reaching out to affiliates, influencer affiliates, right? Who are the people that are on TikTok Shop? When you're reaching out to them, what they want to see is that you have a product that they're going to be able to sell really easily, right? That's really what it comes down to at the end of the day is you are trying to tip the scales for them to come to you, not you to beg to work with them, because you're going to get way better terms at that point, right? So you're trying to get in this phase two, you're trying to get as much GMV on your hero SKU as possible. So really what you have to do is just like pick three, right? Pick your top 3 SKUs that you think will perform well based on the data that you find. Start running creative and ads towards them. So this is a total ads play at the beginning. This is the reason why it's really interesting, because I look at like massive brands who are coming into this market, and what they're doing is they're hiring influencer agencies to run their TikTok Shop. I'm like, oh, this isn't an influencer channel. I don't think people understand this is a performance channel, not an influencer channel. And so that makes a really big difference. So we know of another very, very large brand who's hardly doing $100,000 a month right now, right? Because their agency just doesn't understand that it's all about performance at first, right? And then you hit this tipping point where now you put out an open collab. And when you put that collab out, everybody wants to come and work with you. That's when the magic happens, right? That's when you can release some sort of SKU, and all of the influencers, you get 5,000, 10,000 people that all want to rep your product, right? And at that point, if you can keep those influencers and keep the product that they have and they can continually make videos for you, you are so incredibly far ahead. There are the brands that we're working with, they're getting thousands of pieces of content right now that they can then use across all other channels, right? And then we can leverage for more TikTok Shop ads. And the halo effect is crazy, right? The halo effect over onto Amazon specifically is crazy. There's a tool out there, Prescient AI, that does a really good job of measuring this, but it's difficult to tell. But what will happen is our clients will be like, hey, what happened yesterday on TikTok? We doubled our sales on Amazon. And we're like, oh yeah, we had a video go viral, right? So a lot of people are still a little bit sketched out about purchasing on TikTok Shop. Which is why they'll go and purchase on Amazon instead.
Yeah, I was doing SEO research for this episode to come up with topics and questions, and is it safe to purchase on TikTok was one of the most common search terms that would go through there.
Yeah.
But going back to your piece on the influencer part, I have a TikTok account for my 2 French bulldogs. I'm that guy. We have about 10,000, 11,000 followers, and we've done some collabs with brands. It's really mutually beneficial because at the influencer side, you're getting $8, $10, $12 per purchase. Where if you think about it from like a general collaboration you do on social, if you're getting like 10 or 20% of a sale, you're probably only making $2 or $3, or maybe even less than $1 per sale. And on
Yeah.
the brand side, you're able to give that money because that's your CAC or that's your CPA. So you're getting $8 to $12 CPAs for them posting their organic content that way, which is great as when you think about it from a Facebook ad or just overall paid media acquisition aspect.
Exactly. And you're also then getting that same CAC when you run their codes, their Spark codes on ads. So then they're still getting paid, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're getting paid. Plus, you're still better off than you are on Meta right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is an absolute blue ocean for brands. And I don't think people really realize how blue ocean it truly is.
Yeah. And let's talk about the influencer piece a little bit. I mean, how do you generally approach, well, I'll call it influencer seeding, but influencer outreach? And is it any different than you would do on a different platform?
Yeah, so all of it is run through the TikTok Shop Affiliate Center. So that's one place that you need to be on is within there. But what we found is that the messaging happens a lot of times off platform, and then the deals get done within the platform. So one of the things that you need to know is that your brand, even if you have a well-known brand, they don't care because all that they want to see is, can I make money selling this certain product? Right. So right now, the influencers have all of the power because there's a lot more brands than there are influencers. A lot of people, actually, an interesting story that my head of TikTok Shops was telling me the other day is that a lot of influencers actually look down on people on other influencers who are on TikTok Shops selling like that. I don't think that that's going to last for too long because I think it's going to be the normal. I think that this is the old guard of influencers who are holding on to, hey, we get paid per post. This is how we get paid. We do brand deals and we get paid per post. Whereas the world is changing, right? The world of influencers is changing. And I don't think it's going to go back to what it was before, right? It's going to be like, think about the performance aspect of this. This is win-win, right? This is absolute win-win on both sides, right? The influencer gets a product. The influencer tries to sell the product. If they do, and the brand wins, then they win, right? Whereas a lot of influencer deals before was just like shooting in the dark. Like, okay, you have good engagement. I don't know if that's ever going to do anything for my brand. We just don't know, right? And it was also very difficult to measure. Whereas now there's this closed loop ecosystem within TikTok Shop. Now, again, there's the halo over into D2C and into Amazon. But the numbers I'm talking about are like TikTok Shop specific, right? Like this brand I'm telling you about that did 110K the other day. Like this is just on TikTok Shop, let alone the excess that they did on .com and on Amazon, right? Or any other marketplaces. Like it's phenomenal what you can do.
Yeah. And I think it's going to continue to grow in terms of, TikTok is a search-based platform, if you will. Like it's becoming a very big alternative to Google for discoverability that way. And I mentioned this to somebody on a podcast episode about a year ago when we were talking about SEO, but I kind of look at influencers as backlinks or off-page SEO, if you're looking at it from an SEO perspective, because it's driving people to your shop or to your platform that way.
Totally. That's such a great way to look at it, right? You're basically, and that's the way to look at backlinks as well. Like when I try to explain backlinks to people in SEO, I'm like, think about it like other people are saying, hey, this guy's awesome, rather than saying I'm awesome, right? Everybody wants to hear somebody else say that this guy's awesome, right? And that is exactly what it is, which is funny because like SEO at the end of the day is really like social commerce, right? Because you're just really trying to get people to say, hey, trust this guy, right? Trust them, buy from them.
Purchase from them. Yeah. And when it goes to getting started out, I know you mentioned that it can be a complex process. I think you said it's about a 1 to 2 week time frame for your agency. And you, I imagine, have it dialed in. You've done it, repetition. You've done it for many brands. What are some of the common mistakes or hurdles that a brand could face when they're coming into setting up a shop on their own that way?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things at first is not having all of your certifications. Right. So if you're selling any kind of supplement, anything like that, TikTok Shop is just as rigorous as Amazon, if not more rigorous. So you need to have all of your documentation. So a lot of brands will not have their trademarks or any of that kind of stuff. You have to have all of that. TikTok is trying to make this a legitimate platform. And by doing that, right, they need all of this documentation. And so you need to make sure that you have all that documentation. You also need a US representative. So people who are in different countries do not count. A lot of times, another big issue is that people set up their TikTok account when they were on holidays. So I know of like multiple people who set it up while they were in Bali. And it's actually hilarious. This is like multiple people have come to me being like, so my TikTok shop is set to Indonesia. How do I change that? And it's a pain. Now, luckily, on the agency side, we have all of the contacts, right? Like we work with multiple teams on the TikTok shop side to get the stuff done, right? And try and get people through. Most people do not have access to that. So you need to reach out to your TikTok rep if you have one. If you don't have one, you need to try to find a TikTok rep to get this dealt with. But your main business account then needs to be associated with your shop. And again, wherever you set that up is where it lives. So Canadians is a big deal. I'm a Canadian, which is hilarious that I'm so big on TikTok shop because we don't even have it in Canada. We get around it to be able to see it using a VPN and using a US SIM card. So that's how you can see it. But you need to be in the States to actually be able to use it.
And where do you see the future of TikTok shops going in the next year to 2 years? I mean, I know you mentioned that YouTube's rolling some things out. Meta has had its bouts with shops and going back and forth with it. But TikTok seems to be prevailing right now.
So TikTok is winning because of their affiliate network, right? It's because they understand what social selling is, right? Meta didn't get it. When they rolled out shops, it was just like, okay, it's another place to check out. And that's what I thought TikTok shops was too. I was like, oh, okay, well, how is this going to change the ecosystem? Like, what does this matter? And then I realized, oh, it's because it's humans selling to humans now, right? It's we can finally figure out how to leverage influencers and measure influencer content. Right? And then when Meta comes on board, I think that Meta is really trying to make sure to work out all of the bugs in the background before they release their affiliate network. Once they do that, things are going to get really interesting. And the crazy thing is a lot of brands are just going to be behind, and agencies as well, right? All of these performance agencies, and I really say performance agencies because they're the ones that need to figure this out, because all commerce is social. And this will be a part of what they do. There will no longer just be a Facebook ad agency. That's just not going to be a thing in the future. You will have to know how to leverage influencers. And it's going to mean that you can't run the same kind of agency that you did in the past. You have to be a marketer who understands psychology and understands how to talk to people and get people on board. This is not like automated media buying by any means. It's probably the opposite.
And last question for you here. If somebody's hesitant on getting started with TikTok shops, a brand, what would you tell them?
I would say just baby steps. Go in, look at the data, right? Go to Calidata, go to Fastmoss, go and look and see what the opportunity is out there and that other brands are doing it. And you can also reverse engineer how they did it. That's the crazy thing. You can go and reverse engineer it. So just go into those. You can just use the free accounts at Calidata or Fastmoss just to see, are any of my competitors actually doing this here? The other question that I'd have for you is, what other incremental channel do you have right now? Right? Like, what other channel do you have that's actually going to add incremental revenue? Because you weren't getting this revenue before, right? Like, this is all new revenue, right? Because right now, we're not seeing as many people search and buy like we are on Amazon, right? Whereas a lot of times Amazon can come and steal purchases that were going to happen anyway, right? You just happen to show up on Amazon. Versus TikTok Shop, I would say 90 to 95% of this is net new incremental revenue for you. So do you want net new incremental revenue? Figure out how to do it on TikTok Shop.
Well, Jordan, I appreciate you coming on the show. As I shared, we will have some resources of yours in the show notes, that Loom video, and we'll also be sharing a checklist for the things that we went over on getting started with TikTok shops. If somebody wants to connect with you, what's the best way to do that?
Right now, I would say on Twitter. So search Jordan West Ecom. Maybe by the time that this is released, I will be out of LinkedIn jail as well. But I am incredibly active on LinkedIn right now. I don't even show up on search results. I think I had some malicious attack. We're trying to figure it out.
I was trying to find our conversation to prep for this, and I couldn't. I was like, did he block me, or it must have been LinkedIn jail? So I went on Twitter.
Yeah. So luckily I'm still very active over on Twitter, and it has been a pain. So I'm going to figure out what happened. Maybe it was something I did wrong. I don't know. I'm incredibly active on LinkedIn, and they might have thought that I was so active that I'm a bot.
Yeah.
So that might be what happened.
Okay. Well, Jordan, good to connect with you. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Colby.